welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Today, I am joined by a good friend and a better podcaster, Dustin Wertenberger. Dustin, how you doing today, man?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I've had a long day, so this is actually kind of relaxing knowing that I'm not the one that has to ask the questions today. Yeah, it feels really good being on the other side for once. I'm doing really, really good, man.
Dude,
And
it
thank you for
really
having me on
does.
too, by the way.
Oh, dude, this is an honor. Me and Dustin met through a podcast community that we're a part of. Much like myself, Dustin is so down to help others and to promote other podcasts. And it really is a community. I know a lot of people that aren't part of this community don't realize how closely knit we all are as a community and how proud we are of each other, how all out we all go for each other. And Dustin is one of the hosts of the Barrens Hideout podcast. You can see the name right down here. And you can also subscribe to that podcast by clicking the links in the description right now, which I strongly suggest you do. He grew up being a lover of all things horror, being scared of everything until he faced his fears, and now is completely obsessed with the horror genre. So,
Yep.
the Barrens Hideout podcast, how did that come to be?
So this is kind of like a quarantine podcast. You know, you hear that a lot lately, with people like getting their like 1 year anniversaries or whatever it is. So yeah, it was kind of just like a spur of the moment. I was doing like Twitch streaming for a while, doing games and stuff, and I always watch horror movies, and I have a friend who is my co-host, who he would have been here today, but unfortunately had to work. But yeah, my friend Aaron, and
Ooh.
he's been wanting to get into get into horror movies, and I was like, dude, would you want to start a podcast, and I can kind of like, you know, get you into the whole horror sphere and like kind of like teach you and get you to understand like how these movies are made, and just kind of like pick them apart. So it was like, yeah, dude, let's do that. So we've been doing it for about a year and 3 or 4 months, I think, and we've been just growing ever since. Right now we're able to do these really big interviews with people that I never thought in my life I would ever be able to talk to. And I mean, we're on your show right now. You run a really big show over on YouTube, and I listen to every episode, and I was trying to make sure that I'm there to listen to all of them. If not, then I have to binge them. But yeah, it's just been a wild
Thank you.
ride, and it's just beginning, dude. And I'm loving every second of it.
Well, you guys are consummate professionals, man, and I'm very happy for you. I wish you nothing but the best success. And
Thank you.
one of the things I love is within the Barrens. You were talking about how you interview different people. What started the within the Barrens part of this?
So yeah, this is a new, I don't even know if I want to call it a season or if it's just a new segment of the show, but we wanted to add a little bit more because we're doing one episode a week. And we've always talked about wanting to do guest interviews, and we just didn't know how to go about it. And then like our like work schedules kind of changed, and we're like, we might be able to get an extra show out, you know, every week. So we decided to just reach out to everything. I run all the socials, and because Aaron works like way more than me, so I'm in charge of all the socials, always reaching out to people and, you know, aligning everything. Like if you looked at my calendar right now, you'd be like, you're a madman.
I
So
feel
yeah,
you,
we
brother.
just wanted to kind of branch out and do something a little different, and give, you know, some more content to people, and just, you know, start to pick the brains of people that in the horror industry and also other podcasters, because it's opening to everything. It's not just if you worked on a film. Our first one that we did with you know, all of our really, really good friends is The House That Screams. You know, Candy and Sean, they were our opening episode, and they are the ones that I'm super thankful for, because I wouldn't be doing this podcast without them, because they were such a huge inspiration, and it really made me want to take the jump to do podcasting.
Candy and Sean and the whole crew over at the House that Screams, the horror podcast, are genuinely some of the best people you could ever hope to meet. You guys have seen them as guests on my first horror movie, and
Yep.
I've been a guest on their podcast a couple times, and they're genuinely some of my really good friends. I talk to Candy and Sean at least once or twice a week. You know, I'm still reaching out to everybody from that podcast. We're also all the time. It's very, that's what I love about our group is we couldn't ask for a better group of people that work hard on their craft and are constantly working. People, I mean, like, yeah, a podcast is just talking to people. No, it isn't.
No,
There's
it's a lot
so
more
much
than
hard
that.
work. Yeah, there's so much work that goes into making a podcast, and I'm so proud of how far you guys have come. and I
Thank
can't
you.
wait to see what you guys have coming up in the future. And I did say this at the beginning. Not only do I have the podcast down in the description, so make sure you're subscribing to that, but I do have all the social media links as well. So make sure that you're following them on social media so you can stay up to date on everything that they're doing. Now, before we get into the reason why we're here, do you have anything coming up on the podcast that you can talk about?
Yeah, so we have an interview that I'm dropping that I just did today that as I'm recording this right before I started with you. This is the probably the biggest um I don't know show or milestone that I can say has happened on the show is we were able to get an early screening of a new Shudder movie coming out, Revealer, in June 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
And we just I finished up reviewing and talking to them, well, interviewing and talking to them about their movie, and that's dropping June 3rd. So whenever this comes out, it will probably already be out, or
Mm-hmm.
it will be out very soon.
Yeah.
And then another really big one that's happening tomorrow is that we're having Jill. Oh my God, I'm so bad at saying her last name, but I'm just gonna say Jill G, the
Gavargazian.
director. Yeah, the director of The Stylist is coming on tomorrow as well. So things are just skyrocketing, you know. It's really, really nuts. And I really do owe it to everybody in our community and anybody who listens to all of our shows, anybody who likes a post and shares it. You guys are the
Mm-hmm.
reason why, you know, Ken and myself are able to do this stuff because you are being such huge supporters. Even if you just listen to the show for like 2 or 3 minutes, that's something, man. You know, I know there's a lot of people out there who can't finish a show, and I mean that's completely fine. Just you clicking on that means a lot.
Well, and the thing is, once people start your show, they're not going to stop. You guys are very infectious, and it's a fun show to listen to.
I appreciate
Um,
that.
well, I could even show you. Or just earlier today, I was listening to the new Within the Barrens with Jason Miller. Like you can't see it. It must be really bad words because it's censored. But I was just listening to that one earlier today. I try to catch. It is hard. Sometimes I'm delayed because I'd like to support everybody in our community. So while I'm working, I do like to throw in an earbud and listen to everybody's doing their things. And
I
um,
appreciate that.
I genuinely get excited, man, when you guys are putting out new episodes. So
Thank you.
you guys could check those out down here in the description. Now, Dustin, in order to do a horror podcast, horror had to start for you somewhere. So now, my friend, I want to go back to the past and talk about what got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie. And Dustin, your first horror movie was?
Well, if you can't tell from right here, was Halloween 1978. And
And what a good start, man.
yeah, yeah, dude. It kind of all started when I was about between the ages of like 8 and 10. It's very fuzzy. It's the first like horror movie I remember sitting down and watching. It kind of started at like a grandparents' house. It was just on because my grandparents let me watch like whatever I wanted. I couldn't finish the whole movie. I think it was on AMC or something around like Halloween time. You know how they always play all the Halloween movies. So I was there. I think I was spending the night. Really bad nightmares. I had to shut off the movie. But then I told my mom about it the next day, and she's like, you know what? We're going to rent it this weekend. So we got it on that Friday, you know, when video stores were still around where you could rent movies. So we picked it up. We watched it. I went and sat through the whole thing. I mean, I was scared as hell.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, from like 8 to 10 to about 13 or 14, I was scared of everything. And I didn't really kind of break out of that and like face my fears of horror movies until about the age of 15. But yeah, I have very, very fond memories of my first time watching Halloween 1978.
Well, and what I love about that is the fact that, I've really gained a big respect for Halloween 78. Growing up, I hated the Halloween franchise. Like, I fucking despised this franchise. I'm still not the biggest fan, but what I can say about this franchise is the longevity is great. They're still doing shit with it today, which shows the staying power. But, when you're growing up watching Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Chucky, and then you go and you watch Michael, you're like, this motherfucker's boring. He's just
Yeah.
stabby, stabby, stabby. And I came into Michael a little bit later in life. So, but man, when you go back and watch this now, a lot of very effective scenery throughout the landscape of this film. And which scene would you say it was that affected you the most?
Uh, oh boy, there's so many, but the one that I remember when I actually sat down and watched the whole thing, was when Lori gets into the house and she's like by where the stairs are, and then he just kind of fades in from behind her, and then she falls down the stairs. That's the one that like really, really got me. And I had nightmares about that forever. Like I had to have all my closets closed, lights
Yeah.
on. Like that scared the shit out of me.
Oh man, the shape appears, man.
Yep.
And like I said, I'm not much of a Halloween fan, but one of my favorite quotes from any horror movie: "You can't kill the boogeyman."
Yeah.
Like I love that shit, and that's the perfect example right there. I mean, the boogeyman is sneaking up behind you when you
Hmm.
don't even know he's there. Like that's a huge scene for me as well. I love that scenery as well. So we know which scene affected you the most, Dustin. But what would you say from Halloween '78 your favorite scene would be?
Oh boy, my favorite scene. Oh, that's a tough one because there's so many. I'd
Mhm.
really have to say is when he puts the guy up against the wall and just stabs him and just stares at him, and then famous head tilt happens. That's the one that I think I like the most, just because of how visceral it is with the minimal amount of things going on. There's no blood or anything like that.
Right.
There's some sound cues, but just him standing there, just staring at him, and like just so I don't even know if joyful. Like you can't really read what Michael's feeling because his face obviously is just blank, and he's got the devil's eyes and whatnot. But yeah, just that like minute of him just watching this guy die
Yeah.
is so impactful to me.
And it's funny that you mentioned that because you're right. Like it seems like he's admiring his own art at that moment. Like he's looking at a
Hmm.
painting on the wall and just genuinely enjoying this art. And I think that's amazing. Um, and Michael, I think is very scary because he's just another guy.
Yeah.
Like he could be your next door neighbor. He's not a burned up victim in your dreams. He's not a little boy that drowned in a lake. He's just some crazy motherfucker from next door. So I think we just talked about a kill and that being your favorite scene, but there are a couple different kills in '78. Which kill would you say is your favorite? Is it Bob's death on the wall?
Uh, hmm. It would probably be a top contender. Um, but I've always really liked the throat slitting in the car, because that was just like what the hell just happened. That one was really good, but it's always a top between that one and definitely Bob. But I think for this sake, I'm going to say Bob, just because that's the one that has impacted me the most. So I'd feel like that would make more sense for it to be my favorite one, you
Sure.
know?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, well, and we talked about this a little bit ago, but Halloween is still making its rounds right now. We're about to get Halloween Ends at the time of this recording. That'll be coming out in a couple of months. But a question I've been asking, and I guess it's kind of been done because it is a reboot of the franchise, but I've been asking, would you like to see your first horror movie remade? Now, we did get Halloween 2018, which essentially is a reboot of the franchise, a requel, if you will. What are your opinions on Halloween 2018?
I really thought it was a fresh start. I really, really enjoyed it, and I've watched it a lot since it came out. I watched it way more than Kills. That's a whole
Mhm.
nother story. But yeah, for it kind of giving a new life to the Halloween series or franchise, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. That it was very brutal. It was, how it's supposed to be. It has doesn't have a lot of crap in it. I mean, besides like one little thing with the doctor, but for the most part, it's very straightforward. It's very Halloween. It feels like Halloween. Um,
Mhm.
they're not trying to add too much. It kind of has like that feeling you get when you watch 78, like it's fall. You have like that feeling of the air, just by watching it and knowing just that Michael is around every corner, because he is, especially in 78.
Mhm.
So yeah, I enjoyed the hell out of 2018. I think out of most of the movies that are in the franchise, I think I hold 28 pretty high, pretty close to 78.
And see, that kind of bleeds into my next question because since this is part of a franchise, something I usually ask, what is your favorite film in the Halloween franchise? So, on the franchise as a whole, what would you say is your favorite film in the whole franchise?
Oh man, I mean, I would say
And
Halloween
why is it
3.
H2O?
H2O is a good one too. Yeah. That one's really, really good. But if we have to
I'm
stick,
with you though. Honestly, I'm with you. 3 and H2O, I think, in my opinion, are the benchmarks for this franchise for sure.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna stick to just if Michael is there and in the film, I will say H2O. I've watched that one a lot, just because it's kind of like the 2018 thing. I can kind of feel like the same way for both of the films because it kind of brought a whole new spin on the franchise, and it was kind of like a love letter to 78, and they weren't trying to do too much with it. They knew what they had. They weren't adding a bunch of crap to it, like the whole Thorn like little mini series had going on over there. But yeah, it's very fun. The kills are great. And it's so like late 90s, early 2000s. It has that
Yeah.
feel. It's great. It's really, really fun. It's really a sit down with your buddies and get some popcorn film. It's fun.
Yeah. And I think it's you said it's a love letter to 78, which I agree with, but it's also a love letter to genre films like Scream. Like it really brings out the meta feel in the
Yeah.
Halloween film, which is amazing to me. I think I love when horror films have fun, and that's what Halloween H2O is to me, is fun. And I know Resurrection gets a lot of shit. I don't like Resurrection, but I'm at least entertained when I watch
Yeah.
Resurrection. Unlike Halloween 6. Halloween 6 is a turd. So
Yeah.
I can at least fuck with Resurrection. So we talked about Halloween 1978 and really the whole franchise and what that franchise means to you. But now, Dustin, I do want to kind of throw a little bit of a curveball here for you for a second.
All
My
right.
little buddy Ghostface here has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Dustin?
My
What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
My all-time favorite scary movie. Oh boy. My all-time favorite scary movie. It really, really flips because I do hold Halloween
Yeah.
in that one for sure. And I really hold Suspiria in there too because that was like my first like
Ooh.
Giallo-esque type film.
Yeah, the body
But
horror and
yeah, it's so hard to pinpoint that. But if since we're already talking about Halloween, I'm gonna have to go and say that it's Suspiria just to kind of throw a curveball there, because
sure.
damn, that film is just, and it's the original, not the remake, the
Right.
original one, is so fun. And I saw it in a theater too. For the actually, Aaron and I saw it in a theater. It was during Salem Horror Fest a couple years back, and it was the first time I saw it, and I just fell in love. I bought the soundtrack because Goblin had the soundtrack, kind of available, and I think they also have it on Spotify you can listen to. And like I'm a sucker for really good music in movies, and Goblin is definitely a band that you want to listen to if you like music in movies. So yeah, definitely Suspiria I think would probably be my favorite one just because it's so fucking fun.
And hilariously enough, like you talk about music and scores, you can't see it. No, come on, stay on it. I still have the original cassette,
That's awesome.
of the Halloween score. Like, I think for me, the big three when it comes to scores in films will always be Halloween, Jaws, and Psycho. I think that people know those scores even if they haven't seen the film, and that's such such a honor, I would think, for people that's like, John Carpenter
Yeah.
is just a god when it comes to scoring films. And I just think it'd be a blessing, to be able to be known for a score. Like that's so cool. And the fact that you look that deeply into it, I've got the Creep Show 2 and the Evil Dead scores on vinyl in my bedroom. Like that's how much I love these scores. So I
Yeah.
definitely know where you're coming from when listening to a score. I remember going out and buying the soundtrack to Freddy vs. Jason because From Out of the Ashes was on it.
Oh yeah.
It's these things I totally remember. So we talked about what you're doing in the future. We talked about your first horror movie. We talked about your favorite horror movie. But before I let you go, my friend, we are going to go back to Halloween 78. And what we're going to do now is we're going to rank this on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking this on acting, production, the absolutely amazing score, nothing like that. What we're doing here is we're ranking this movie strictly on how much it affected you on first viewing. So 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. What would your ranking of Halloween 2018 be?
Oh boy, 2018.
Or I'm sorry, Halloween 78.
Oh,
78. I'm sorry,
78.
I'm a fucking idiot.
It's
I
okay.
still got my brain on. I still got my brain on 2018.
It's a good movie. It is a good movie.
Yeah.
So 78, I'm gonna have to say 5, just because it really did spark my whole interest in horror, even though yeah, I was scared of it, but that's kind of the point of horror, is being scared and kind of, distracting yourself from whatever's going on in your life. And like, yeah, I was really young, but I mean, everybody has stuff going on in their lives. And it's a movie I watch a lot. I have almost all of the Michael masks behind me. Michael's kind of blocking them right now, but they are down there. And another thing too is because I have a 4-year-old son, and he doesn't really watch horror movies, but he knows of all these things, and he loves Michael, and he's always taken my masks. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I was infected by it in a lot of ways, and like now my son's kind of feeding off of that, and more in a more positive way, and not like I'm not forcing him to like sit down and watch this, just kind of have him
Right.
just know about everything. And knowing that I kind of conquered my fear of horror films by watching Halloween 78, and the whole franchise really is what really got me up. And then I started getting to Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street,
Yeah.
all the classics, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all that stuff. So yeah, 5.
Mhm. And that's a perfect ranking. And like you said, it really, really did affect you. And you're talking about your kids. I got my 14-year-old, and he's like, it is what it is. I like horror, but I'm not going to go balls out for it. My 9-year-old, she's like, I love Chucky. I like The Purge, but besides that, I'm not in.
Mm-hmm.
And then my daughter, who's 2, is all about Michael Myers. Like, and it's not even like she just watches videos of him on YouTube. Like, I tried to show her Halloween. I tried to show her Halloween H2O. I tried 2018. I tried Kills. And she's like, no.
Yep.
When Michael's on the screen, she's like, Michael Myers. But then she's like, no, fuck this. So before I let you go, man, one last thing I do want to ask you, because I've been trying to squeeze this in here when I've been talking to people that have talked about Halloween or Scream with me. Can you give me your hot take prediction on something that will happen in Halloween Ends?
Oh man, I know everybody's like, oh, Laura's gonna die or Michael's gonna die. And I kind of have to go on that train, because what I think is gonna happen, especially what they're setting up in Kills, is that Michael's feeding off of all these things, and like he wants Laurie to be dead. And I think that Laurie's going to die, and it's going to kind of put out Michael. But I really do think they're finally gonna have kind of like a Jamie situation where she takes up the mantle. So I'm hoping that it's just gonna pass on to somebody else. Maybe it's the daughter. Maybe they're gonna like throw it on there and start a whole new thing with Halloween, which I think would be cool, as long as they don't ruin it with a lot of convolutedness. But everybody wanted someone else to take on the mantle of Michael. And I think we are reaching that point where the OGs they're going to be gone at the very end of this, and we're going to have fresh crew, just like how Scream's doing it right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that Allison, and this is my hot take, I think that Allison is going to kill Laurie while killing Michael. I think that she's going to kill them both, and that's going to really fuck with her head. And I think that that's something that you could maybe lead, like you were talking about, you could lead into a new trilogy.
Yeah,
with something like that. But I think Allison is going to have the biggest role in this movie. And again, I know nothing. I give you my word. Like, I know absolutely nothing. I'm still completely fucking devastated that I lost my Karen in the last film. But what can I do? I do think that in this film, the two hot takes I have is that Allison is going to have to kill Laurie in order to get to Michael, and that we are finally going to see Lindsay's Kyle Richards die. Those are the two things that I think are going to happen in this movie. But like I said, I'm still devastated over the loss of Karen. Karen was my girl. I loved Karen to death. I thought she was great. In the new movies I've seen so far between 2018 and Kills, I love one of my favorite scenes in the whole franchise, to be honest with you, is when Karen's crying in the basement and I can't do it. And then Michael steps out and she's like, gotcha. And she shoots him. Like, dude,
that's great.
I literally let out we were watching it in the movie theater. I literally let out a yes. Like, when that happened. Like,
that's
I was
awesome.
So stoked, dude. And I wanted to walk out of Halloween 2018 when the doctor got down and he put Michael's mask on and he stood back up with Michael's mask. I was like, we're getting the fuck out of here. And luckily Ashley was like, no, let's see how this plays out. Thankfully she did, because I am a fan of 2018. I really genuinely am. But at that moment, I was like, this is stupid. Let's just go. Let's go get some Applebee's or some shit. Like, I can't do this. But it really did. You know, I think the Dr. Sartain thing is the worst thing in that movie.
I agree on that one too. Yeah.
I can't get over how well that part was with Karen, you know, because you're genuinely believing her, you know. I can't do this, Mom. Gotcha. And she shoots him. It's just like, oh, that was sick.
It's a super feel good moment. It really is. Yeah. And a lot of that movie kind of has that, and it's a very feel good movie, especially towards the end. There's a little bit of that in Kills, but it kind of gets bland at a certain point. But overall, it's pretty fun. And I had a friend who talked to me about, because at first I really did not like Kills, and then I did like I had him come on the show, and we did like a kind of comparison and talking about it. And at the end, I really came out really liking Halloween Kills. So I'm hoping that ends this kind of continues on with this train, and they don't throw some more weird curveballs. And it's just kind of, here it is, OG's gone, start new thing. That's what I want.
See, and I've counted. I've watched Halloween Kills 4 times. And every single time I've watched that movie, I've enjoyed it more and more and more. I left the theater going, what the fuck? And I think the thing is, Ashley really put it in perspective for me. And Ashley is super intelligent, super smart. If you're here for the first time and you don't know, Ashley's my wife. She does a lot of Sledgehammer horror with me. Everything really, except for my first horror movie. It's the only thing I do by myself. But I was so bummed. And she's like, I think the reason why you're so upset is because you built this movie up for an extra year. You know, they delayed it a year due to COVID. And we had an extra year to keep building it up and how much better it's going to be, because we're waiting a year. And then it could have never lived up to the hype of us waiting an extra year for it. And when Ashley said that, I was like, you know what? That's really smart. Like, I think that's true. I think, you know, having it pushed back a year, you know, I got even more excited thinking about it. And then, you know, I got, oh man, we're going to watch it. We're going to watch it. Oh, we got to wait a year. So you have that anticipation building up more and more and more. And then you go watch it, and it could have never lived up to the hype. But the more I watched it, the more I enjoyed it. The only thing I don't like about the movie, obviously, is the evil dies tonight. And
love that
how in the fuck are you going to confuse that mental patient for Michael Myers? Like, how? I don't get it, man. That's like confusing Bill Clinton for Butterbean, man. Like, younger people watching this are like, what the fuck's a Bill Clinton or a Butterbean? But you know, it's just like, you're not going to confuse the two. So it's just that's one thing in the plot that really bothered me. But we are at the end of the third act, guys. The credits are about to roll. Before they do, there's some podcasts down here you need to listen to, and some social media accounts that you need to follow. So make sure you're clicking these links in the description. Make sure you're giving these gentlemen a follow. I love the Barrens Hideout podcast. I love what they're doing right now within the Barrens. It's something I genuinely enjoy, and I hope that you guys can find some comfort in it as well. I'm very blessed. I work at a job where I get to listen to podcasts all day long. So I get to listen to my friends talk about horror movies all day long while I'm working. And this is one of the podcasts that I get very excited for every week. So I really hope you guys check it out. I hope you can, you know, subscribe to their podcast. Make sure you're ranking it. Make sure you're giving them some 5-star love, and make sure you're leaving some awesome comments for them, because they work their fucking asses off and they deserve it. So, hey man, don't go anywhere. Dustin, I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, as always, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.